Good morning. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it today, but we've got a break in the weather, so I am going. It's Friday, and that means around the lake. Parts of Saskatchewan are getting snow. We've been getting a lot of rain. It's still dripping under these trees as I walk under here. Hadn't thought of that. It's like getting rained on with big, heavy drops. But it's not actually raining at the moment. It's a little bit above freezing, 3 or 4 degrees. There was a freezing rain warning earlier, but it didn't amount to anything here. But I do know that down in the southwest, in sort of a band slicing up through the middle of the province, quite a bit of snow today. This is all good. We need the moisture. We are certainly getting it because it's supposed to let up and stop for a while and then rain again tomorrow. Not so much tomorrow, but Sunday. And there's a little bit of showers actually in the whole week to come, so. Yeah, there'll be more traffic in the alleys apparently this time of day. Interesting to see if anybody's around the lake. It really just stopped raining a pretty short time ago. So if you happen to be finding this on Facebook or YouTube, please check in. I'm currently wearing hat and gloves, the whole kit and caboodle, and coat. And we still got flowers left on the trees despite the rain. That's good. I'll probably get 2 more. The hat will be the first thing to go. The gloves will be the last thing to go. Somebody I know in the neighborhood said they saw me walking by their house and wondered who I was talking to. So I'm talking to you, whoever happens to be watching this either live or the recording. Fridays are around the lake day, and if you've been following me, you've seen many different kinds of around the lake days. The video that new people coming to my channel see is on a day with snow and mist on the lake. Today, cloudy, wet, quite green. Not very windy, which is good from a sound point of view. While I was waiting to see if the weather cleared up, I was working on an editing project, which I finished up just before I decided to risk this. So that's done. I've got an interview for the podcast, the World Shapers podcast, this afternoon. That's the podcast where I talk to other science fiction and fantasy authors about their creative process. I'm interviewing an author named Jesse Owen this afternoon. And there will be a new episode of the podcast at theworldshapers.com this weekend with Jane Yolen, author of more than 400 books. She's in her 80s. She's made good use of her time. I'm considered fairly prolific, although I feel like I've slowed down recently. I won't match that in the next 20 years, I don't think. Maybe I will, I don't know. I certainly hope I'm still writing in my 80s and 90s and hundreds. I'll come up here, take the underpass to get over to the lake. This is the Albert Street Bridge. The other cool thing about the podcast, if you haven't watched one of these before, is that I kickstarted an anthology last year featuring guests from the first year of the podcast, so short fiction by 18 authors who were guests during the first year. A pretty good selection of what was probably 30 some altogether. And those included some of the biggest names in the field: John Scalzi, Joe Haldeman, Tanya Huff, Julie Shernada, David Weber, people like that. It was 9 original stories and 9 reprints. And it was so successful that I did it again. I had a Kickstarter in March, which succeeded. So I'm now working to assemble Shapers of Worlds Volume 2 with 24 stories this time. Oh, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, I can't wade through that. Well, I can't wade through that. I either have to go through the trees here, which I guess I can probably manage. So, there we go. There. Well, that was an unusual way to get through. What was I saying? 24 stories, 24 authors, more original stories this time, 18 original stories and 6 reprints. Last time it was 9 original and 9 reprints. There's a lot of birds over here on the water for some reason. Feeding on something? Because somehow the rain brought something to the surface. What's going on? What are they doing? I don't know. There's a lot of them. I'm already about ready to take off my hat. I barely started walking. Yeah, they're just, this flock is all over the place here. That fountain there is the aeration, one of the 2 aeration fountains. There's also a waterfall that I walked under last time. Probably won't do that today, given the weather. So that keeps the water aerated for the fish. And the three ducks in a row just chilling. Oh, birds are over here too, flying around the fountain. They must be feeding on something. I would think insects, but I don't know why a little bit of rain would bring anything to the surface that would attract their attention. Intriguing. If you're on YouTube or Facebook watching, check in. If you're on Facebook in particular, let me know if I've got sound today. I did yesterday, but I didn't the day before that, so let me know. Ooh, I'll live dangerously. We'll walk on the edge here, on the ledge. Careful not to step in the goose poop. Or fall in. Falling in would really put a damper on the day. Success. I did not fall in or step in goose poop. Birds are still going over here too. Back at the took off my hat. Thought you'd like to know. Oh. There's ducks out there too. They seem very quiescent on a rainy day. Not that it's raining right now, but it was raining quite hard earlier. Yesterday's walk was also at an odd time. The rain let up and I went out about, what was it? 2 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that. Picked up a new subscriber doing that though, so somebody found me that maybe didn't normally notice me. I'm up to 62 subscribers. Just another 938 and I can start monetizing this channel. Cherry blossoms. The sun's even trying to come out. Not sure it's going to have much luck, but it's trying. Definitely stay on the pavement today and won't take any shortcuts through the bare ground. Be pretty damp. It's muddy, potentially. Of course, I still have to get in some writing on the Tangled Stars, my space opera coming up for Daw Books, coming out next year. I heard from Daw this week, in fact, they needed to have some information about it to get some of the metadata, I guess. You know, the stuff like what are the themes and all that kind of stuff that helps people find books when they're looking for them. So I kind of wrote my first little description of it. It's not back cover copy or anything like that, but it's kind of the first time I'd really put it down. Started to say on paper, but no paper was involved. Somebody coming behind me. Somebody else taking advantage of the break in the rain. I was kind of hoping we'd get snow so I could do one more walk in the snow, even though it's May 21st, but not too heartbroken that we didn't. Over there is the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, building for CBC Saskatchewan. When I get home, it'll be lunchtime. Pretty close. This takes a bit less than an hour, depending on how much I dawdle and which route I take. There's a few places where you can go off this main path and it'll add a little bit more to the distance. It's glad to walk. I've done, must be about 2 months now without a break. Haven't missed a day, which is cool. I always like to point out that this is where my book, Song of the Sword, Book 1 in the Shards of Excalibur, starts right here, more or less. Well, it starts up the street a ways, but my main character comes down here and hears singing in the water and then sees a staircase opened up between here and Willow Island. Goes down into the water and discovers a woman made of water. The Lady of the Lake, manifesting herself, tells this girl, Ariane Forsyth, that she's now the Lady of the Lake. And there's this boy that happens to come along at just the time to see this, and he also goes down into the water. And the two of them end up with a quest to find the scattered shards of Excalibur before Merlin can. He's the bad guy. In my book, in his modern day guise as Rex Major, which is, he's kind of a Bill Gates, Steve Jobs kind of computer magnet. And that's the premise. And then 5 books later, all the shards of Excalibur have been found. And we get to the big climax. A lot of the books happen in Saskatchewan. just the opening one. There's lots of scenes throughout, but they also end up all over the world. So book 1, they're up in the Northwest Territories. Book 2 takes them to France. Book 3 takes them to New Zealand. Book 4 to the Caribbean. Book 5 to Scotland, and then they end up back here. Well, not here, well here. The very last scene is here, right here at the lake. But the climax happens at somewhere else in Saskatchewan. Don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil anything. The line goes on for a while over there. Always geese. Ooh, daredevil running the wrong way. Oh, but they got off the path. Not as much of a daredevil as I thought. The whole walk one way around the lake is the stupidest thing I think that anybody suggested. It's somehow going to prevent transmission of a virus. There's my unstable internet connection again. Very annoying. Keep an eye on it to make sure YouTube stays up. Sometimes it fails, and I usually get a message. If I don't get a message, I don't know, and then it's just done for whoever might have been watching. So far, there's no indication anybody's watching live, but if you are, drop me a note. There's the lake, the legislative building over there. This is about a 5K walk from my doorstep all the way around and back again. I think I'll stay up here, not go down by the other fountain, but maybe I'll go around Pine Island when I get there. Go over the waterfall again to add a little extra. There's always nice benches you can go and sit on in good weather and enjoy the lake. You can watch the sunset from there. That's west, more or less. And the park goes on a bit over here. The green space till it hits Broad Street over there where those cars are going by. Wascana, maybe that's Wascana Parkway already. Well, I guess I was just worried about having to get off of the paved ground, but I guess if I go down here, I can climb up the steps to the overlook and stay on pavement. So we'll go down here just because it's more scenic. For anybody who happens to be watching. There's the ledge just over there. As I mentioned before, all of this is the setting in a way for my book Magebane, which is a fantasy I wrote under the pseudonym Lee Arthur Chane, published by Daw Books a few years ago. And the landscape, although it's an entirely fantastical world, is based on Saskatchewan. Oh, just for fun, we'll go up and over the footbridge. But then I'll come all the way around this little pond where the aeration fountain is, and climb up those steps and then carry on from there. Yeah, get a nice view of the lake. I can do a panorama if you like, and even if you don't like. It's Wascana Lake on a gray day. Downtown over there where the taller buildings are. And then if you come on around, we'll be going up there in a minute. There's the aeration fountain in this pool. And that's that. Oh, ooh, a bit steeper slope than I was expecting while I'm staring at my screen instead of my feet. More benches, that would be nice places to sit if they weren't currently wet. And if I were in a sitting rather than walking mode. Just going around the fountain. A couple more nice benches over there you could sit in. All right, now we will go up. A view of the ledge, but I've already done the panorama, so I'll keep going. The building straight ahead is Wascana Center Authority. That's where the offices are for the oversight of the park, Wascana Center. There's also an art gallery in there. And a little meeting space that I've been in a few times for book-related things, generally. I'm currently just about at the end of a mentoring period. The Saskatchewan Writers Guild has a mentoring program that I've done a few times in our it wraps up, I've done it, this will be my third time. It wraps up with a reading and kind of an event. That's not next week, but the week after. But the first time I did it, the wrap-up event was in there. And the second time I did it, the wrap-up event was in Saskatoon at Amigos. And this is my third time I've done it, and the wrap-up event unfortunately will be virtual. That's coming up on June 3rd. And it's a public event. If you go to the Saskatchewan Writers Guild, skWriters.com. I think it's a .com, not a .ca. Anyway, look up the Saskatchewan Writers Guild. It's skWriters.com, and you'll find it there. If you look. And this is the marina over here, which has Bar Willow in it. Nice restaurant with a great deck, which is now open again. In-person dining has resumed. Lake Taco. There's also, I guess, a taco takeout window up there. I never had anything from there. Always geese. When I walked to the university, which I will do again sometime, I started from here to cut off all of what I've done already and then carry on the other side of Broad Street, or Wascana Parkway, and on around the Saskatchewan. Well, half the time I still call it the Saskatchewan Centre of the Arts. It's technically the Connexus Arts Centre now. The big theatre up ahead. It looks closer to me than it does in the fairly wide angle shot from the camera, but anyway, I went on, walked around that, walked to the university. I'll do that again sometime because I only really walked around a little bit of the university. Or I might park closer to the university than just to the university. I don't know. So that's the marine over there with landing stages and that sort of thing. I don't see a lot of boats on the lake, but there are some, and there are canoe clubs and dragon boat races. And there have been competitions, rowing competitions, things like that. Right after the lake was deepened, we had the Canadian Summer Games here, Canada Summer Games here. I thought it was I couldn't remember if it was the Western Canada Summer Games or the Canada Summer Games. I think it was the Nationals. And, oh, there's somebody on a canoe right now. Willow Island over there. Pine Island over there with the waterfall where we're headed. There's kind of the timing stand and everything for those kind of competitions. There's a building there that's kind of specifically for that purpose. Until we've had a lot of rain, you can actually see the water flowing in here under the bridge. I noticed yesterday that the creek was very high on the other side. Not flooding high, but high on the other side. And this is much higher than the last time I walked along here. Hasn't flooded the walkway down there, but it's not very far below it either. No, again, with the lake. For some reason, I wanted to stick that way. That's better. Well, it is certainly a bit wet under there. I don't know if I would want to try to walk through in runners or not. Looks like it's probably dry on one side, but anyway, not going that way today. Well, warm enough I'm going to at least unzip one layer of the coat, and I think I'll actually do both. Probably could have done with just a sweater, but it always feels chilly when you start out. Still love for somebody to say hi if you're watching live, even if it's just hi. Nothing else. It's always nice to get. I guess they finished what they were doing here. This had fencing around it last time, and that's gone, but you can see the ground has been dug up and replaced. So they were laying pipe or cable or something under there. Pretty empty. There'd be way more people out here normally on a spring Friday this late in the morning. I would think there'd already be people out almost for lunchtime. They're already on lunch break. But it certainly didn't look very promising for walking when I first looked out this morning. It's dried up quite a bit now already. One of these days I'll do a no walking walk. I see those sometimes. No talking walk, I mean. I don't know if that would be more popular. I'm afraid, maybe that's why I haven't done it. I'm afraid me not talking is way more popular than me talking, which would certainly put me in my place. We'll go over to Pine Island and take a turn around under the waterfall over there. Since yesterday I went to Waterfall Park, which is near my house. This is our other artificial waterfall. This one has a purpose, again, aerating the lake. The other one was just for aesthetic reasons. Looks a nice place to take wedding pictures, for example. And there's just something cooling on a hot day about falling water. Somebody's sitting there with their engine running. I don't know why that is. Okay, we'll go over here. There's always lots of birds on Pine Island. It's just a loop. It's an island. Only way there is on the bridge. This time I'll walk the opposite direction from the last time I was here, just to make it more exciting. For some definitions of excitement. You see why it's called Pine Island, as they planted pines all over it. That one's nicely blooming. Uh-oh, a pigeon with a... Oh, he was dragging his wing, but he flew just fine. Maybe it was a ruse. Maybe there's a nest, and she wanted me to follow it. Lots of stuff I'm trying not to step in on the sidewalk here. Nice cooling breeze when I get over here. It's quite warm, so that's actually welcome. It wouldn't be for long. It is momentarily. There's the waterfall. Way over there, if you look close in the distance by that tall building, not the ledge, but the other one, you can see the first fountain we walked by. So we'll stick close to the wall here because it can be quite wet. Woohoo! Made it in one piece. Oh, there's somebody. Hi, Miriam. All the way from India. It's a chilly day today here. Lots of snow in parts of the province, but missed us. We just had rain. Yes, hello. I only had a couple of spots where it said I had unstable internet, so hopefully I don't lose the feed. And there's not too much stuttering, unless I'm the one stuttering. This is Pine Island. It's an island in Wascana Lake. Not a natural island. Well, I don't think it's a natural island. I can't actually remember what was here before they deepened the lake and built all this new infrastructure. Called Pine Island because they planted pines on it. And the building, as I said earlier, is, well, as far as I know, the main thing it's used for is as kind of a timing stand for rowing competitions, that sort of thing, which we have here from time to time, usually in this part of the lake. Well, ends here, and then it goes down the long part. So I'll come into view here. So back towards downtown there, where there's a long stretch of open water. pigeon can't even be bothered to get out of my way. So this is Wascana Lake overall, artificial lake in the heart of Regina. Just much greener now than the last few times. Well, certainly when I started walking around it, when it was snowy. With the Saskatchewan Legislative Building over there, always. I have it pretty much to myself today. There's been a dog walker, a jogger, and a couple of bicyclists, but otherwise, I seem to be the only one out. Sure, I would have been the only one out if I'd come out when it was pouring rain at my usual time this morning. I don't think that would be good for either the phone, water resistant though it's supposed to be, or the gimbal, water resistant, which it is not supposed to be, so I don't want to risk that. And there's my internet going unstable. Hopefully it comes back in a minute. Some more cherry trees there in bloom. Oh, baby geese. Getting bigger all the time. Not quite teenage geese, sort of junior high geese at this point. They grow fast because in about, what, 3 months, 4 months, they have to be ready to migrate. So they'll go from that to that over the summer. So I know YouTube is working. If anybody's on Facebook, let me know and tell me if I have sound. Not that I can do anything about it, I just like to know. Otherwise I find out when I get home and check it out. And of course, a recorded non-buffering high-def version of this goes up on YouTube later. And then I usually delete the live stream because I don't see any point in having both of them up. I suppose it keeps me from tracking views completely, but I take note of how many people happen to be watching or watched the live stream. So I get some idea of my overall viewership, which doesn't really matter because it's small. Oh, patch of mud. Not sure what it's doing on. It must have, maybe there was a big puddle there, I don't know. It was mud, not something the geese left behind. More baby geese. These are smaller than the last ones we went by. These ones are really little. Hello from Lakeview. All the way from Lakeview. assuming you mean Lakeview, the neighborhood in Regina. Might as well show the other island while I'm here. This is Spruce Island, this one's called. It's not developed at all, just left for the birds. You can see Pine Island over there that we just walked around. And the other one is Willow Island, which I pointed out earlier when we went by. There's those little birds that I noted when I first came into the park, just swirling all over the surface of the lake. And my only guess is that they are somehow finding food that has come to the surface. I don't know, presumably because of the rain. They're not dipping into the water though, so it would have to be insects. Usually see that in the evening. Oh, here's a whole group crossing the road here. We'll let them pass. There you go. I won't hurt you. Last week's walk, I saw a group doing that, but they were right in the crosswalk, right under the pedestrian crosswalk sign, which I thought was funny. Put a picture of that on Facebook. What the heck happened there? I almost think a car drove into it, but there wouldn't be any likelihood of that. I suppose it could have been a piece of equipment that they were using in the park that slipped. I'll follow the path along the shore today. Sometimes I don't, but I will today. Won't walk up that ledge. Although, let's see, last time I came this way, what did I do? I think I did walk around the path last time, so maybe I will walk up to the ledge this time. Very peaceful when the cars aren't going by, going like that one just did. That's the memorial over there to the communists. Starvation and murder of Ukrainians. What's it called? The Holodomor, I think it's called. It's a little starving child. There's a lot of Ukrainians in Saskatchewan. Some of Stalin's had to work there. That wouldn't really matter when communist countries about like any other when it comes to that sort of thing. Communist leader, I mean. There's quite a few little memorials and statues and things around the park for various reasons. That one's fairly new. There's one further up to the United Empire Loyalists, which of course I have mixed feelings about being an American by birth. We didn't think they were loyalists. my country, where I was born. On the other hand, I was born in Texas, which had nothing to do with the revolution at all, not being part of the United States till much later, and its own independent country for a while. The only state that was an independent country before it joined the Union. I was born in New Mexico, which definitely wasn't a state, or wasn't even the Wild West back in the 18th century. I was born in Silver City, New Mexico, close to the Mexican border. The town where Billy the Kid shot his first sheriff, as I've heard the story. So that's where I am from. That was some time before my time. Oh, I think the Piccadilly Fountain is going here. Sounds like. Haven't seen that running yet, so let's take a look. Yeah. This fountain is, or did actually, stand in Piccadilly Circus until the 30s. That was brought over here. Piccadilly Circus in London, so there it is. Fountaining away. A nice view of the east side of the Legislative Building beside it. Yeah, this is the first time it's been running since I've done these walks. I'm sure it wasn't running last week. It has these dolphins down here, the water spouts out of them, and a little fountain on top that spills into that. One thing interesting about that I pointed out before is that my wife's grandfather, Samson J. Goodfellow, was a First World War veteran, so he was in London during the First World War at one point, several points probably, and that fountain was there then, so he must have seen that fountain. I'm sure he took a little note of it in Piccadilly Circus, and then after he moved back and had been living here for 20 years or so, it came to live in Regina just like him, which I think is kind of cool. He's the one whose First World War memoirs I published through Shadowpaw Press in 2018. One Lucky Devil, they're called. You can find them on any online bookstore, both ebook and print. Sells a few copies every now and then. Not a lot, but steadily over the years. I hear music, which is always odd when you're in the park. Somebody's blasting their music for everyone to share, whether they like it or not. You'll listen and you'll like it. Be somebody out there protesting something or other. There's somebody sitting on the sidewalk whom I will avoid. But anyway, there's a good view of the Legislative Building, Saskatchewan Legislative Building, fondly called the Ledge. I like to point out that the dome was redone very few years ago, and so for a while it was actually shiny copper, which was very odd to see until oxidation did its job, turned it dark. All right, we'll go down through the garden here, which won't have flowers in it yet. Good thing, considering it came very close to frosting last night. If it didn't, it might frost again tonight. It's still too cold to put flowers in the ground just yet. No idea what that's all about. This is the statue of Queen Elizabeth, of course, which I've pointed out many times. And she was here in 2005 to dedicate it, and my daughter gave her flowers right here. Somewhere along here, we were standing. I got a very close-up picture of her. Mexico City, so you were from America? I was born in America. We moved up here from, I wasn't in Mexico City, I was in Silver City, New Mexico, just north of the Mexican border in the States. And we moved up here when I was 8 years old from Texas. I only lived in New Mexico for a couple of years. And then we moved to Texas, and then we moved up here. And I've lived up here since I was 8, so by far, the bulk of my life has been spent in Canada. Although I went to university. Okay, I know from experience that taking a phone call like that, which I just did, although the app cuts off the phone call, it probably means my sound's out of sync, or will be once I start walking. But there's not much else to point out specifically, so it's probably all right. That's Walter Scott over there, the first Premier of Saskatchewan, who was the one behind the building of the Legislative Building, and whom, as I like to point out, I have portrayed for the Hill Company's centennial a few years ago. He was a little guy, I am not. He was Scottish, I am not. Don't look a thing like him. But you know, doesn't matter for that sort of purpose. So hopefully things are still going on the live stream here. Phone calls always mess it up a bit. I usually find that it's, you know, the picture looks fine, but my voice is now out of sync with where I was when I actually said what you hear me saying. But again, nothing too specific to any location here as we continue along by the lake. And almost home anyway. I can't walk under the bridge. I discovered when I first came in, it's flooded. So I have to go and catch the crosswalk. I can actually fix anything weird with the sound if I want to edit it, because you can detach the audio and move it around. So it's just the live stream that really affects if I choose to do the work. That isn't how bad it is. Or it may have killed my audio altogether. I don't know. If you're still there and you can hear me, let me know. If you're on Facebook, let me know. I had nobody from Facebook this morning. But this is a different time than I usually walk. I had somebody from Colombia and somebody from Brazil. Yesterday there was somebody, I think, from Croatia. And yes, there are people who watch it locally, but they tend to be the ones on Facebook more than the ones on YouTube. So, here's the dam that makes the lake possible. That's the spillway. And the Albert Street Bridge, obviously. You're sort of right smack dab in the middle of the bridge, right there. I still sound good? Or as good as I ever do? Well, that's good. Like I said, it may be out of sync but you might not notice depending on how bad it is. So we will leave the park now this way. Wascana Center. Those birds are still at it, finding something to eat. It's got to be insects. It's just above the surface of the water. We'll leave them to it. I'll get my lunch once I get home, so that'll be nice. It is a beautiful lake. It's one of our crowning features here in Regina, the Queen City of the Plains. Sometime I'll take a walk up in Saskatoon, go over the bridges there and show the Saskatchewan River Valley. Very beautiful in a much more grand sort of way, because that's a big river. And again, this here is Speaker's Corner, and those lanterns framing the entrance here actually did stand in Hyde Park in London at one point. All right, just got to get across the road. Why did the Willett cross the road? To get to the other side, just like a chicken. Albert Street Bridge. You often have to wait quite a while on this light, but we'll see what it's like today. This is the main drag, north-south through the city. There we go. See, people have covered their flowers because it was so close to freezing, and may have frozen or may freeze tonight. If it clears off, there'll be much more risk of frost. Again, that's Harrington Mews. That's the little cul-de-sac where my character Wally Knight lives in my series, The Shards of Excalibur, young adult fantasy series. Available everywhere in ebook. Available from Shadowpaw Press in print. I don't have new print editions, which would be available everywhere yet. These are the ones from the previous publisher, which went under, and that's how I inherited so many of them. Well, I had to buy them, but I didn't have to spend much money on them. So I've got several boxes of Shards of Excalibur books. And if we ever get to do a Fan Expo or Sask Expo or one of those big events where I get to have a table and sell books, maybe I'll sell some of them. Doesn't look like it'll happen this summer, but you never know, by fall, maybe something will happen. Vaccinations are going very well in Saskatchewan. In fact, my daughter's in line in the drive-through right now. She's been there since 9:30, and they will have just started now. Yesterday, they cut it off at 12:15 for many more cars joining the line. That's how popular it was. She's been annoyed because she turns 20 next month, and it's all done by age. So all of her friends who had already turned 20 were able to go like last week and get their vaccine. She had to wait, and she's really annoyed too that they lumped it into like 16 to 20, 16 to 19 really. So she's at the very high end of that, and she doesn't like the fact that all these 16-year-olds can get their vaccines. It's worse than that now. I think as of today, it's down to 12-year-olds. So Anyway, but she'll have her first shot. We'll be eligible for our second shots, my wife and I, in mid-June. And then hers in July, she'll be eligible for her second shot. And then we'll all be fully vaccinated. Which is good. She'll be going back to Toronto for university this fall. It's been nice having her here for an extra year. But nice though it's been, we would have preferred that things had proceeded as intended. She and some friends are looking for a place to stay this fall. Almost there. This is Angus Crescent, where I live. I may have seen a stray snowflake or two along the way, but nothing that's going to pile up. Davin School over there, where my daughter went to school. Crescent looking very green. The elms still aren't entirely leafed out. But looking pretty good all the same. The grass is certainly greener than it was when it was so dry. How long did I walk? Oh, 1 hour on the nose, pretty much. I'm not surprised it took that long. I guess it's because of the extra walk around. Pine Island adds a few minutes. Okie dokie. Well, anybody watching live? Miriam? Anybody else? Thanks for watching. And yay, I didn't miss a day. And tomorrow the weather's supposed to be okay, so I should be back tomorrow. So bye for now.